Yo, what's good, meatheads? Hope you're having an amazing day, and welcome to another episode of the Meathead on the Mic podcast. It's your boy IFBB Pro Matt Brutale, and today I'm going to be breaking down a very simple topic, something that I think personally is overlooked. Because people think, if I get good information, then it's good information, and I should just apply it. And yes, to a certain degree. However, a lot of information without no implementation is just noise. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of nowadays with this word called optimal. Like everyone's talking about, I should do this optimal lift because, it's going to target this specific muscle in a specific way. And then because that happens, then, I'm going to get this result and whatever it is. And like, I understand the approach. Like, I get why you want to do the thing. But for most people, especially the people that are starting out in their fitness journey, it's kind of just nonsense. This whole, sort of trend of talking about optimal lifts and optimal nutrition and like this superfood or that superfood. So in today's episode, what we'll be breaking down is the fact that I want you to stop being obsessed with this word optimal, or at least stop being obsessed with being completely perfect when it comes to your fitness journey, when it comes to you putting on muscle, when it comes to you burning fat. Okay. So again, this episode applies to you if you've been in the gym for about 3 years or less, around there. If you consider yourself, a gym goer, but you haven't been going for like 10 years and you're not insanely jacked or whatever it is, you just want to burn some fat. Maybe you go to the gym and you lose weight sometimes, but then you gain it back because you're in this state of, training for a little bit. You'll get motivated and then you'll get demotivated and then you'll stay back and you won't do anything. And then you kind of undo all of your progress. So this episode is for you if you are one of those people. All right. And guys, if you've been training in the gym for 3 years or less and you use social media for your fitness advice and nutrition advice, or YouTube, specifically YouTube, because YouTube's great for that, I won't lie. Again, we're live streaming on YouTube as well. So this episode's directed at you. Okay. Now, if this is you, you probably asked yourself, all right, and just let me know if this is you. Just nod your head silently if this is you. All right. You probably ask yourself, should I barbell squat today or should I use the hack squat? Should I use the barbell bench or should I use the dumbbell bench? Should I eat 299 grams of rice or does 306 grams of rice matter? Like, does it really matter if I'm not sharp to the absolute gram, if I just want to burn body fat or if I just want to build muscle and I am not trying to become a professional bodybuilder? Does 5 grams really matter? If you've asked yourself those questions, or if you've asked those questions to other people, I want you to pay attention. Okay, I get that your favorite social media and fitness and nutrition gurus teach you a lot of valuable lessons. I might be one of them. Okay, sometimes I do talk to the people that really want to be of the upper echelon and bring their natural physique to something that's never been compared to most natural physiques, like a different level, which is, again, it's a different level. It's not for everybody. I do that sometimes. I'm guilty of that. However, one thing that I'm seeing that I absolutely despise nowadays is this obsession with optimal, optimal training, optimal diet, optimal supplement, the perfect superfood, whatever it is, or demonizing certain foods. Like one that I saw recently was oatmeal. It made no sense to me. They said oatmeal's bad for you because they feed it to peasants and it was just, honestly, I'm not even going to get into it. It was just very stupid. And that was just my opinion. Okay. If you agree with that, then again, this episode's not for you. All right. So what I always see is, nowadays, especially with these new YouTube videos that are science-based, which are very educational, like I don't think they're inherently bad. Like they're providing all of this information so that you can get what you need in terms of the basics, or if not even the basics, an advanced level. I think it's an advanced level of science and information that you can sort of understand to help you change your training protocol, help you change your nutrition protocol so that you can get better results. Okay. I'm often seeing you should train this way and not that way because your way is suboptimal. And that's where they're sort of losing me over here, right? Like, I personally believe, if you want to train in a certain way and your body responds well training in that certain way, and you're getting results, which really is the ultimate thing here. If you're getting results and you're not injured, or it's not going to make you injured, that's a really good thing. Like if you are doing those things, whatever is working for you and your biomechanical range of motion, dude, that's all you need. You don't need to follow this super optimal, because this science-based bodybuilder or whatever it is, this YouTuber says, if you're not doing it this way, then you're not going to get the maximum amount of gains. And if you're not getting the maximum amount of gains, you're going to think to yourself, well, then what's the point of doing this? Because I'm not doing it right. I'm not being perfect. And with this idea of perfectionism, especially if you've been in the gym for 3 years or less, it really holds you back. Okay, perfectionism holds everybody back, but especially those that want to start, because you'll never get started because it's not perfect. Like, sit with that. Has that ever been you? Have you ever been that type of person to, you know, I was going to finish my assignment on time, but I was waiting for the perfect time to get focused and get into the mode and then do all the work, and then, I was going to be good. Like, if you've ever done that, it's the reason why, if you've been training for 3 years or less, you haven't been able to be consistent in the gym, because you're like, I'm only going to go when I'm motivated, instead of just going anyway. Or I'm only going to go or I'm only going to do the thing if I understand how to do it 100%. Guys, sometimes you jump off the cliff and figure it out on the way down. And that's the beauty of fitness. You're not going to know every single thing that you're supposed to know when you enter the gym. That's why people have coaches, right? And like, if you can understand that, then you'll understand that there's kind of no point of trying to be perfect, or only doing optimal movements, or only doing the thing that this person said you should do because they said you should do it and they're knowledgeable or they're jacked. Yes, I understand that I fall into this criteria to a degree. However, I'm bringing attention to this because I don't want myself or the information that I can provide to be a reason for you to not, go all in your own fitness journey. Okay. I want you to be able to go all in your own fitness journey with the knowledge that I have, but also don't rely on only the knowledge to give you this guideline as to like what's perfect and what's not perfect. Because I might personally say I love squatting. I love to, lift heavy on leg day with the squats and the deadlifts, right? And you might think, okay, well, because Matt says, squat heavy and do deadlifts, I should do it too. If I want to build my legs, if I want to build my glutes and hamstrings, right? But the fact of the matter is, not everybody has the same biomechanical range of motion. What does that mean? Not everybody can do the same workouts and get the same results, because you cannot bend it the certain way that I do. Your ankle mobility isn't the same as mine. Your hip mobility isn't the same as mine. Whatever it might be, certain workouts just might not work for you. And just because you see somebody doing this quote unquote optimal workout and that you believe it's the best way, I quote, to get results in this specific area, whether it's to lose your belly fat, to lose your love handles, to build your legs, your chest, your arms, shoulders, whatever the fuck it is, guys, that doesn't mean that you don't have something that's going to work better for you that isn't quote unquote optimal. Matter of fact, more things are probably going to work for the average person that don't work for that person who's telling you it's optimal. Okay, yes, you can get better results if you do certain things and if your body is accepting of that, and if you are able to actually apply it without injuring yourself and you're comfortable doing it. But that shouldn't be the reason why you don't do things, or why you hold back from going all out in the gym or being consistent, because it's not perfect, that it's not optimal, or my nutrition is like whatever, so I don't know what I'm kind of doing here, and if it's not perfect, if it's not optimal, then I shouldn't be doing it. The bullshit, guys. Bullshit. Most of you, watching those videos had to Google up the fucking definition of what optimal even means. Like, let's be honest here. Most people read at under a 5th grade level. And I'm pretty sure the first time you heard optimal in conjunction with training, you're like, what the fuck is this? And you had to look into it, because it's for most people that have been training for under 3 years, for most people that struggle with motivation in the gym, for most people that are on and off going to the gym and on and off in the kitchen and aren't consistent with their diet, training optimally means fucking nothing. Okay? Like, seriously. And I get it. These creators are educated. Like, all these things are actually fact-based. They are science-based. I'm not saying that what they're saying doesn't make sense. I'm not discrediting any of that. As a matter of fact, I agree with it because it is science-based and there's facts to back it up. However, that application, like, think of it. Would an athlete that is maxed out on everything that they can achieve with their physique, they've built as much muscle as they could build. They've, figured out which workouts work best, which workouts don't work best. I'm talking about somebody that's been training for 5+, maybe even a decade, years, right? And they've been doing everything. They've reached the absolute pinnacle. So now they're looking for that extra 0.5% to bring them over so they can continue to improve. When you've been training for 5 to 10 years, your room for improvement is drastically smaller than if you've been training for 3 years or less. Meaning, if you decide to apply the mindset of the person that has been training for 10 years, and you're trying to do that in hopes of, like, just making just regular progress within your journey, it's not going to translate the same. Like, you're just going to continue to get the results you're already going to get by being consistent, because the other person that's trying to get the extra inch or the extra millimeter to just get that much better, has already been training for so many years that everything else that they do, even if they are consistent, wouldn't give them the same results or drastic results because they've already sort of maxed that out. Right? So for you, it doesn't apply the same. Like, think of sprinters here. Okay, I don't sprint personally, right? But if you are an Olympic level sprinter and you are sprinting all the time, you've been sprinting for 10 years straight, and you're on the cusp of breaking the world record, you're going to find out every single little thing to do in order to break through that plateau, in order to break through whatever limit it is, the last little thing that you have to do in order to get to this world record. And that's when optimal training, and that's when all the minutia of things come into effect. But if you are somebody that is just beginning sprinting, you don't need to apply the same, logic, the same science-based level of expertise to improve. You can literally just improve by being consistent. And your room for improvement is so fucking much because you're not even close to the world record. Does that make sense? I want you to understand that, guys. Especially if you've been training for 3 years or less and you struggle with motivation, going to the gym and staying in the gym. Okay? Because it's getting out of control, man. Like, I think most of these creators, especially the science-based ones, are absolutely trustworthy. But it's getting out of control, guys. Just because you decide to use the dumbbells instead of cables doesn't mean you're not going to grow muscle and get stronger. Okay, just because you decide not to eat the latest, and I quote, superfood, or take the latest, I quote, amazing supplement, doesn't mean you won't burn fat. Again, these people are doing these things because they're already at the limit. They're trying to figure out each and every single inch and millimeter to break through that plateau with science, because being consistent and putting effort alone isn't going to take them anywhere past that level. They're at the top already. Whereas you, if you've been training for less than 3 years, you're barely at the bottom. You just kind of got your foot off and you kind of keep reaching the bottom again. So just being consistent and stacking wins will compound you to the point where, who knows, maybe if you do have those big dreams, you can, maybe 5-10 years down the line, apply this level of optimal training to break through and be part of the 0.01%. Right now, that information is irrelevant for you, especially if you've been training for less than 3 years and you struggle with being consistent in the gym, guys. Just because you decide not to use a fucking ruler and put it on the floor to measure the perfect setup for your bench and angle it so that your form is perfect down to the fucking millimeter doesn't mean you're not going to, burn fat or build more muscle. It's not going to really affect you if you're that sharp and you're that strict, if you are at the beginning level of your fitness journey. Does that make sense? Guys, if you are at the beginning of your fitness journey, it's actually very obsessive for you to do all this optimal stuff and focus on optimal training and optimal nutrition and this and that. Yes, you want to find the best thing for you, but to be blunt, you don't need to treat yourself like you're an Olympic athlete, like you're a pro bodybuilder, like you're at a plateau where you're so close to the top, because let's be honest, that's where the science kicks in. Right? Science is necessary for those people at the very top to break through. And let's be honest, you're not there. And if you are not there and you continue to try to apply the mentality like you are there, it becomes obsessive, and it actually sucks the experience away from improving the regular way, which is just by showing up, rinsing and repeating, failing sometimes, okay, and learning along the way, guys. Most people never start things or finish things because, and I quote, it's not perfect yet. And guys, whether we want to cater to this ideology or not, the optimal training obsession caters to that type of thinking, especially if you've been training for less than 3 years. Like, think of it. The greatest bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongmen, models of all time did not get hyper obsessed about the minutiae of things until they got to the top. Before they got to the top, what were they doing? You tell me. You probably have the answer in your head. What were they doing before they got to the top? The fucking basics. They rinse and repeat the basics. They showed up every single day. They ate what they had to eat. They didn't really stress too much on, am I 5 grams over or am I 5 grams under? The science didn't really fucking matter that much, because what mattered is actually putting in the sweat equity, putting in the work on a consistent basis to get to the point where now, okay, look, I've done everything as consistently as I could have, put all my effort down as sharp as I could have. Now it's time for me to tune it up so I can get the absolute most out of this. Because being consistent and having, a crazy work ethic and putting in all your effort will only take you that far. And I don't say that to minimize it, but I'm saying if you are one of those people that actually want to see yourself not just with a six-pack, but with a lot of muscle and being lean, you have to understand that when you get to the point of just getting the six-pack, if you've never had one before, is going to be a lot different from you having that six-pack and then building all the muscle at the top. The basics will take you to the first checkpoint, and to get to the final checkpoint, you're going to need that extra push. And this extra push is going to be the optimal stuff. You have no business dealing with it if you're at the beginning of your journey. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that to demoralize you or to make you think that you're not worthy. That's not true. I'm just saying this because we often, the homework analogy that I talked about, guys, we often think that, okay, if it's not perfect, or if I'm not going to do the thing that's going to get me the most results, then I'm going to kind of fuck this up. And if I'm going to kind of fuck this up, then there's kind of no point of doing it. And then that's where your motivation goes, just right into the shitter. And I don't want that for you. Because you can definitely succeed, right? But you have to sort of abandon this mindset of it has to be perfect and optimal, and I have to be getting the absolute most results every single, every single set, every single rep, every single meal. Guys, one of my buddies, and if you listen to this, shout out to him. His name is Sky Fitness, right? So at the beginning of his journey, he learned about, what do you call it? The thermic effect of protein, right? So if you guys don't know about the thermic effect of protein, it's basically, well, protein essentially burns calories to consume. So let me just make this simple for you. If you eat protein, the calories that you get from protein aren't exactly the calories that you're consuming, because it sort of negates itself. It cancels itself out, so much so to the point where eating protein almost doesn't really, it almost adds to your deficit. It's true. It's science-based. It's a fact. And he got to the point that once he learned this, he started to factor that in and say, okay, well, I'm going to create more room and more space in my meals because I understand that protein has this thermic effect, and that means technically it's keeping me in a bigger deficit so that I have extra room to sneak in extra meals. And now going down this rabbit hole of optimal training and optimal science, at being, he looks great. I'm not going to knock him, but at the beginning he was very overweight and he was, nowhere near as good, is in good shape as he is now. That didn't really help him because it really slowed down his progress. And then he had to do all these micro measurements to figure out, okay, well, now how many calories exactly am I consuming, and how many calories exactly is my body burning? And nobody really knows all that specific stuff unless you're literally in a fucking lab and there's tests being run on you, consecutively, right? So that's a great example on the obsession with this optimal stuff and figuring out I gotta do this to do that, and if I measure this millimeter, then that becomes an inch, and then so on and so forth. And digging that deep just isn't fucking necessary. Take a step back, look around, do the basics, breathe, fuck up a little bit, especially if you've been in the gym for under 3 years. Because being that obsessed will not help you. It'll actually make you more anxious, and give you this ability or this want to procrastinate because it's not perfect, because you don't know what you're doing. You don't have control over every single variable because you barely have control over your consistency. Does that make sense? Guys, the repeated basics on a high level and the willingness to stay feverishly consistent in your respective domain is what's going to give you the success that you want if you've been struggling with the motivation and if you've been training for less than 3 years. The greatest athletes and bodybuilders or models of all time didn't get that amazing strength or looks or their muscle by measuring an eighth of a fucking gram of rice. Well, not at the beginning, at least. All right? They didn't get there using a fucking DEXA scan every single rep or every single spoonful of rice to measure how impactful their previous set or how many calories they burn per meal. I want you to understand that. You don't need a perfectly tuned, fully spec'd out sports car to drive places. Maybe once you're a pro racer, you can fucking get that shit because now you'll need it to hug those corners. You need that suspension. You need, A1 fuel. You need whatever it is to spec out your car. You'll need that once you're a professional racer. But if you're just going from point A to point B, all you need is a vehicle. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? Especially if you've been training for 3 years or less and you haven't seen results in your fitness journey. All right? Science is important, but if you're new to the gym, it's not everything, man. You don't even really need it to that degree. Not to the degree that you see it on social media or on YouTube. I promise you. All right? Just get in there, get into the gym, get into the kitchen, stay consistent, and the results will come. And that's a fucking promise. Look at all the greats that have ever done it, ever. They're living proof. All right? That's all I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Hope this episode was valuable. That's it. That's all. If this episode was valuable for you guys, I want you to deliver it out to a friend. Share it to somebody that you know is probably struggling with this, struggling with motivation, struggling with trying to be perfect in their fitness journey and not actually doing anything. What do we call that? We call that analysis paralysis. When you are looking at the problem so much that you're paralyzed, you don't even know what to do about it because you just don't know what to do about it because you're just thinking about it and trying to figure out the best way to handle it. But thinking about the problem isn't going to fix the problem. Doing math about the problem isn't going to fix the problem. Finding out the best way to solve the problem isn't going to solve the problem. The only way to solve the problem is to solve the fucking problem. And how do we do that? We go back to the basics. What are the basics? You show up wherever you have to show up and do the work that you actually have to do in order to get to where you need to go. And what does that look like? Eating your meals, not obsessing over them. Okay? Training as hard as you can and not obsessing over your range of motion and the best workout. All right? Getting a rest and not obsessing over getting a CPAP machine and checking your sleep timer and this and that. None of that is necessary if you're a beginner. Okay? And don't trick yourself into thinking that you need that in order to make the first point A to point B level of progress. All right? I hope I was able to deliver a valuable experience to you guys and girls today. Thank you so much for your precious time and attention. Let's embrace our inner meathead together. It's been nice chatting. Hope you like what today's topic was about. IFBB Pro Matt Butale signing out. Boom. All right, folks. I hope you guys liked that episode. I really did try to give you guys the perspective on what you need to do in order to get to a level where you just see progress. Okay? Because seeing progress isn't as difficult as you think. It's just not. But seeing pro level, seeing Olympic level, seeing elite level of progress is that difficult, which is why all this science is needed. Because you would have already made 99.9% of all the progress you could have made anyway. So you need every fucking tool in your brain to figure out how to get that 0.1%. It's that simple. But if you haven't got that 99% of progress just by showing up and being consistent and doing the basics, you have no business with this optimal stuff. Just get it out of your head. Show up and do the work. All right? I hope I got the message across to y'all today. That's it. That's all. We'll be back again next week with another episode of the Meathead of the Mic podcast. If you do have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM and I'll help you out. All right? That's it. That's all. Hope you motherfuckers have the sickest, most kick-ass weekend of your life. We're out. Boom.